Welcome to another episode of Southern Hang. We've got four friends who met in college talking about things that we like, movies, music, sports, and anything that tickles our fancy. So guys, the good news is we made it. We've gotten through the winter. We've hit March. And some things are exciting about March, right? You got daylight savings coming around the corner. Maybe you're excited about cutting grass and putting some stripes in your yard. Maybe it's 4 weeks till the Masters, or maybe you even start to get ready for the Derby. Now, listener, if you're thinking these would be great topics, you'd be right. But if you're thinking this is where we're going this week, you'd be so wrong. What we're going to talk about this week, we're going to talk about something that makes you laugh. We're going to talk about something that makes you cry. It creates core memories. It brings friends and families closer together. And in some cases, it even separates them. This week, we're going to talk about March freaking Madness. Arguably the best sporting event around. So we'll talk about some memories. What do we love about it? We'll talk about the pick'ems coming up for this year. And per normal episodes, we'll tie it all back to music because that's one of the things that we really like. But before we get into that, we'll kick it around the horn and see what's good this week, what's been cracking. So, Craig, I think you were traveling this week. What you been up to?
I'm blown away by the intro, buddy. That was fantastic. Great energy, man. So, but yes, I have been traveling this week. I just got back today, noonish from Rochester, New York. Had to run up there and look at a store and do some work. That was regular work stuff. I don't know how exciting that part is you want to talk about, but I did get to have two meals while I was there that I found interesting. So Rochester, we went to a place called Dogtown in Rochester, New York, and the deal they do up there is called the garbage plate. I don't know if y'all have seen these, but is
that like all the leftovers? Is there creating the fixings? They put it all in a pile?
It's a big plate. Big plate. You pick out a single meat, two meats, and then you pick out two sides, and they basically just dump it all on a plate, and you just eat just like the description is, garbage plate. And so it was two cheeseburger patties with macaroni salad. First they do like half the plate macaroni salad, the other half French fries. And then they drop this two cheeseburger patties on top of that. And then more onions and cheese and mustard and whatnot. And then they just serve it to you on this big plate. But apparently that's apparently everybody's supposed to eat this because my buddy from that area was like, "What? Y'all don't do this?" I'm like, no, we don't. This isn't a regular thing you dine on. But
do you pick your own condiments, or is this like a thing that they decide what goes on this thing? Like, did you pick mustard and onions?
So I have a bit of, and maybe y'all have it, but I have menu anxiety. When I go to new places, it kind of freaks me out, especially if I'm standing in a line and there's people behind me and you got to place your order and you don't know what you're doing and it's a brand new menu. It messes me all up. So this was a tiny place, 20 people in a space made for 12. and that's including the counter that you got to place your food at. And so my buddy, Jason, who's the one who took us there, he had already placed his order. And I'm like, just go with what he got. And then it just says, you want the, garbage plate as is. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just take it. But so it came with mustard and onions and cheese on it. But apparently you can add, you can create your garbage plate whatever way you want to. So.
You order the garbage plate and it's like, surprise, motherfucker.
Right. Man, there was like 6 different, he was talking about how he divides it up in thirds sometimes with beans and coleslaw. And man, it was,
divided up by thirds. Just put the 3 things not together. That would be the way that normal people eat.
Here in Kentucky, we call those sides.
Yeah, meat and two. The meat and two,
Sounds like the life expectancy in Rochester, New York is probably not very high.
I did have a Diet Dr. Pepper, so I feel like that
you're fine.
Then we're solid.
All set for sure.
Right, and then the other tie-in from last week, we were talking barbecue, but I had said how Dinosaur Barbecue was good up that area. But I didn't know there was one in Rochester, and so there it is. I'm like, well, we got to go. To Dinosaur Barbecue, and it was fantastic.
How'd it stack up? Good stuff.
But great. Brisket. I had the brisket. I had the 2-meat combo there. Brisket, jalapeno cheddar sausage. I had the greens and the black beans and rice as my side item. Good stuff.
Good choices, man. Good choices.
That sounds solid.
Wilding, what about you, bud? What you been up to this week?
Well, I my oldest daughter turned 23 years old, and it just doesn't even make sense when I say that. So she had a birthday, and that was a big deal. But we also had a kind of a big moment too. I don't know about you all, but in our household, while like devices, everybody's got their own devices and stuff. When it comes time to kind of chill and watch TV, there's not really a whole lot of like family gathering around the TV anymore. Everybody kind of goes off into their own spot and watches what they want to watch. But finally, we had a moment where like the stars are aligning, and like everybody in my family is watching Severance. I don't know if you all watch Severance on Apple TV.
I watched the first season. Nolan just finished the second.
It's phenomenal. Anyway,
it is.
I think it might be the first time this has happened, other than like watching sporting events and stuff. Like everyone in my family kind of gathered around the TV, and we watched the latest episode of Severance. And I looked over at Shane. I said, "I can't believe this is happening. This is like this is a family." This reminded me of like when I was 10 years old, sitting around watching The Simpsons or something. But it was a big moment, and I just realized how we just don't do that anymore. And by the way, it was a fantastic episode. You guys need to catch on. It's a really good show, and you know what? It's bringing my family together.
You do anything special? Do you make some popcorn, or did you do like a garbage plate, or how do you
really wanted to like savor the moment, and a garbage plate. No.
It might be the new thing, man. It's trending. It's trending in Louisville, Kentucky. You're going to start making these on the weekends.
Oh no, we just enjoyed the moment as it was. But
that's awesome,
although the whole moment is fantastic. I love that you got the family together. The part that makes me laugh is if you've seen the show Severance, it is such a trippy, out of body experience kind of show. So it's not like y'all were sitting around the house watching, Little House on the Prairie, or
it does say things about my family. Yes.
Yeah. So, but it is 100% is a fantastic show, and I need to do season 2. But that is an intense mind trip of a TV show.
This is true, and normally, like I said, all the all the kids kind of go off, watch their devices, and Shane and I, we've got matching recliners in like a loft area. Oh. Now, the hero in my life is my granddad, and my granny and granddad. When I used to go over to their house, they had like their matching recliners, and they would be sitting there watching their shows. And I was like, man, I can't wait till I get to do that in my life. And I've reached that point where now
I'm picturing Joey and Chandler.
I was going there too, Sharon.
Yeah. So that's Shane and I now watching, whatever show it may be.
You guys sit there
chilling in our recliners,
eating some Werthers or some kind of hard candy, or maybe chewing on some caramels.
That's couples goals right there, buddy. I'm
true,
impressed.
Man. Yeah, living our best life.
I'm for it.
That's awesome. What about you, Sharon? What you got kicking this week?
A lot of work. But one thing I did want to share with you, going back, our basketball season for my 11-year-old ended this past Saturday. Unlike Neil's kind of super competitive conversation from last week, this is more rec ball, neighborhood ball type stuff. Like the clock just continuously goes. There's no, they don't even keep fouls. We don't keep score. I mean, everybody else does, but there's no scorekeeper. Everybody knows the score at the end of the game. That was the end. That was kind of a, fun season overall, everybody learning all that type stuff. But as the season ends, the kids are kind of looking at each other, trying to figure out, what are we supposed to do? And the one thing I thought about that we talked about last week was there is nothing afterward. Literally, the kids end and they just go. There's no
orange slices,
food, drink, nothing, none of that stuff.
No lollipops, no lemon heads.
No, none of that. There's nothing. They're not even selling any of this. That's the one thing I think that's missing
Well, what about
No
motivational post-game speeches by Coach Sherm?
We try. I try. Yeah, we had overall everybody's a winner.
But
It
my
doesn't matter
boys,
if you win or lose. No, we didn't get into that. That's not true. Yeah, it was fun.
You didn't
it
give
was
him the
all
Rick
about
Pitino halftime spiel where he tells them their attitude and intensity is for shit and try to break them down before you build them up.
That's the other coach. I just threw the chair. I mean, that was my Bobby just chucked the chair across the gym. But anyway,
That's a solid move.
it was good. I mean, it got everybody's attention.
Did you extend the arms, or was it more of like an elbow toss? Like,
It was more of a frisbee, like a get out of here type thing, more like that. Kind of a quick. I mean, it's a small chair. It's not a folding chair, so it kind of rolled. It only hit 3 people, so that was good.
Your team does not have the intricacies of the setting the pick and roll or screens like the South.
I'm yelling screen, and I'm betting they're all trying to find their iPads. Like that is not what's going on. That is not. Nobody's paying attention to that. There's the other coach. I was the assistant coach. The head coach, a good buddy of mine, was kind of going through explaining, the different 5 positions, the 1, the 2, the 3. And as he gets to the 4 and he's talking about, power forward, this kid he's out at the top of the key. We're yelling to him to come back. He takes off running the other end. I mean, this is 4th and 5th graders, Neil. So your first grade, I was kind of jealous of your team.
it's all a process, Sherm. You got to plant the seed so next year they come back a little stronger.
Right. We still got to talk about your snack game. That's at least something a parent can control. Like our snack game was on point. We were bringing Capri Suns and that was the main point. Bring the other team over with afterward too. We don't care. Bring all the kids.
We got graders.
Give snacks.
We got at the end of the game, just the end of the season. I shouldn't say end of the game. We did get a graders card, so like a cone or whatever. But yeah, which is good.
That's solid, man. That's a good time. So I got
well, just one. Just before, we'll let you go to your thing. Then you can take us into your segment. But I forgot. I did get a comment this week. Longtime listener. We were traveling together, my buddy Kyle, and he was telling me about the shows. What he thought about them. Episode 2, we got to give our boy some love because he's had enough. Crap that we've given him back on Third Eye Blind. But my boy Kyle was like, after that episode, I burnt up the rest of the day jamming to some Third Eye Blind. It was great. And he goes, and I hadn't thought about them in years. I'm like, I got to tell my boy. He'll love it. So
I appreciate that, but I also promise not to go into another soliloquy on the greatness of that debut album.
That's right. I was just letting you know that your deep talks did lead probably to a bump in listeners, on their playlist on Spotify. But, yeah.
I know we're virtual here, but I feel like I can feel the glow coming off of Wildy and just hearing that news.
Redemption.
As we're going into this next section, I bet Kyle is a Duke fan. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to leave it
there. Say it ain't so.
Yeah. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah.
Hey, props, Kyle. I'm with you, man.
So I got 2 things this week. One was I had an opportunity to go see the University of Louisville women's soccer team. They've got 4 spring games this year, so they got 3 more. And I tell you what, it's pretty fucking impressive. Just these young women, they are masters of their art. They dominated and ended up coming away with a victory over, air quoting for our listeners, the Ohio State University. They took them down 1-0. But the coolest part about it, the 1 goal was scored by A.G. Gibson.
Hey now.
Who is Allison's daughter. Right?
That's right.
She's a freshman. She ripped the lid off her scoring spree here, hopefully. But it was a very cool moment, and the huge mother-daughter embrace post-game looked pretty awesome, man. Something pretty special to see.
That's awesome.
For the listeners that don't know, Allison is whom, Mr. Redmond?
She is my special lady. She's my girlfriend. I don't know what the appropriate terminology is when you're 50.
I think special lady is the word.
All right. All right, we'll go there.
No, that's awesome. I saw her post that on Facebook. I was real proud for her daughter. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
and that they got to play on that badass new field that Louisville has.
That's where during the season, that's where they play. This was in the actually throwing it back to our college days, Churchill Park, where we used to play intramural softball. They now have a practice facility back there. It's got like a field and a half, but that looks like where they're going to play the spring games. But it's a good time, man. It's free to get in, and looking forward to next year, they've got the number 15 recruiting class coming in.
Wow.
So this will be pretty stacked coming in hot for 2025.
Is Karen Days Ferguson still the coach?
I want to say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been there like 20 something years, I feel like.
Yeah, her son is Lance's age, and I met her because they played like on a youth basketball team or something together a long time ago. She's cool.
Yep, they're getting it done, man.
Coach soccer too. Like I think that's a big time soccer family, but I think her son is a basketball player. Like really good basketball player at St. X.
How is he setting picks?
Athletes all around.
Well, we'll see. I would say I think he's more of a shooter. I think people are setting picks for him.
Solid. So the other thing I want to talk about, I was so excited about this. I've been thinking about this for years, and I was like, Gunner's too young. He's too young. He's 12 now, and I was thinking we've reached the age. It's time to sit down. And Neil, you've referenced sitting down with the family, right? But sitting down and watching the movie Stand By Me. Loved it. Loved the movie as a kid. Even as a young adult or even as an adult, thought it was an amazing movie. Now, all that being said, I knew there was some adult content in the movie, and it's probably been 10 years since I've seen it, right? But so we sit down and, we've got our sodas and we're hunkered in. Watching this through a parental lens was a catastrophe. Like, I don't know the last time you guys have seen this movie. I still love the movie, but if there is something you could do wrong as a kid, they did it in this movie. The kids are smoking, they're lying to their parents, they're trespassing, they're playing train dodge. The older kids are drinking and driving, they're smoking, they've got guns. I mean, you name it, every scene, it's like, what are we doing here? And the whole time I'm second guessing myself. At the end of the day, Gunner liked it. And, I didn't make it like a learning moment, but the scene where they walk across the train bridge. Yeah. I did kind of say out loud, just, loud enough for him to hear. I was like, boy, that's a dumb idea.
Yeah.
So
I like when the people talking about Dirty Dancing, and they're like, you talk about nobody puts baby in a corner, and they're like, you look at it now as an adult, and you're like, the chick was running around with a 35-year-old man in a leather jacket, making out, and she was like, she deserved to be in the corner. Put baby in the damn corner.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that movie's got some parts in there too. I'm thinking about that whole movie, and I'm like, yeah, I can see where there's some, yeah, looking back as a parent. Yeah.
Still love the movie, and certainly it hits different as an adult. The ending wraps up.
Based on a short story or a book by Stephen King.
It is. I think the book was called The Body.
Yeah.
Or maybe that was the original title of the movie. I can't recall.
I think it's the book. But yeah.
Craig, you referenced Dirty Dancing. I saw something the other day. Speaking of movies here, so Patrick Swayze, right? Gets into a couple of skirmishes and a couple of fights during that movie, and they put this timeline together. A little bit of a conspiracy theory, right? So he leaves the mountains of I think it's West Virginia is where that little cottage was.
Yeah, it's in New York somewhere.
Well, that's where it was, but the actual place is in West Virginia, I think. West Virginia or Virginia. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been there. I put some money on that one. We'll take that.
All right.
Okay. But so he leaves there, right, because he's tired of all the rich folk, and he goes on to become a bouncer, which is the movie Roadhouse.
Oh, that's right.
Right. And then after Roadhouse, he's tired of his fighting days, and you start watching this, these reels kind of put together, and he gets tired of all that, and then he goes on and becomes what's his name, Bodie from Point Break. Right, he becomes spiritual and ties everything together, and even during that movie, apparently he makes a reference to like an old '57 Chevy that he used to drive, which apparently is the car that he had when he's in Dirty Dancing with the 16 or 18-year-old baby.
Oh wow!
How about it?
Bringing it all full circle, man.
I looked it up. Pembroke, Southwest Virginia. So you're right.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. No need to grievance on the next one like I did with Nathaniel Rateliff. You are correct, sir.
No need for the airing of the grievances.
That's right.
All right, well, let's get into some March Madness here. So let's talk about.
Let's do it.
We got any good memories here? Anything that stands out to you as a kid or as an adult, or anything that you want to pontificate about? Sherman, let's start with you, buddy. You're a basketball guy. You've got some ties here to University of Louisville, Xavier, sporting the Xavier sweatshirt tonight. What you got cooking for us?
I got two memories that are good, and then I got a heartbreaker. So I'm going to talk about the two good ones, because the heartbreaker is even though it's a heartbreaker, it just kind of, to me, still defines how much I love college basketball. But my first memory is 1986 championship, U of L winning that. And really the memory is that at halftime, my parents were having people over at the house. I'm 11 years old at the time. 10 years old at the time. My parents were having people over at the house, and they send us, my brother and I up to bed. We go to bed. While we're laying in bed, we shared a bedroom. We got two different beds, but I tell him, I'm like, Mom and Dad have their own TV in their room. We could probably go over and watch it, but we have to turn the volume down. So I talk him into going over. We're over there. We're watching it. We watched the entire game. Quiet as a mouse, just quiet as a mouse, till it gets to those last free throws. Mm-hmm. The free throws go, and we go nuts and ruin and basically tell everybody that we've been awake all night. So my parents come up, and they're mad, but they're excited because U of L just won the championship. So all was forgiven, got to go through. So that's my first memory. And then the 2013 championship, U of L in Atlanta, went down there with a buddy of mine and our wives. Jonathan Smith, and it was just a blast of a time just being there for it and everything, even if we don't get to hang the banner, but it is what it is.
It happened.
I know it happened. I was there.
I was there. I saw the stuff come down. It
was amazing. All of it was good. The other one was the 2016 second round in St. Louis on a Sunday night. Drove to St. Louis to watch Xavier in Wisconsin. Xavier was a very well-ranked team at the time. I think a 2 seed at the time, and just devastated by a last-second shot against Wisconsin, Bronson Koenig. And I can tell you, the drive back home that night, leaving there at like 11 o'clock at night, driving back, knowing you have to work tomorrow, thinking you were going to win, by the way, was just torrential, just bad, all bad. I don't think I don't lose a lot of sleep over games. I clearly didn't lose any sleep then because I was driving, but it was 4 hours, felt like it was an eternity.
Well, that
just tough.
That drive doesn't do any favors to begin with. That drive from Louisville to St. Louis is about as bland as you can get for a road trip.
It's true. That is true.
There's like 4 exits.
Yeah.
Fun time, but rough way to go.
Sure, but I didn't realize you guys were so highfalutin. 1986, having 2 TVs in the house, that's a big deal, man.
This TV, listeners, you're not able to see it, but it was the old, like a 9-inch screen, probably black and white. I really don't remember much other than screaming and jumping up and down on my parents' bed. And then my mom coming up, and hearing her coming up the stairs, I just was like, oh, we're getting beat. Like, this is just not good. This is not a good, I'm already pointing at Nick. It's his fault, which wasn't going to fly. So all good.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Wildy, what about you, bud? You're a basketball coach here for first graders. What's your March Madness tie here, bud?
I also diehard Cardinal, so my memories are going to be tied directly to my Cards. But I think back to 2005. So that team, Rick Pitino had taken over as the coach, and our program, we won the title in 80, 86. We made some runs to the Elite Eight, Sweet 16 later on in Denny Crum's career. But, the last few years of Denny, the program had kind of gone down. And meanwhile, that was also like, when we were in college, we had some pretty good runs, but we weren't the same as the dominant program we were in 80, 86, and even a couple of years after that. So, but 2005 was the team that Louisville had. And they went like 30-4 or something like that. But they were in Conference USA at the time, so they got a 4 seed. And even though they were one of the best teams in the country. And I remember that year they won their first round game, and Todd Patterson and I said, let's go down to Nashville and watch Louisville play Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech had been to the title game the year before. They had all their guys back, and we're like, let's go to Nashville and watch that game. And I was living in Richmond, Virginia at the time. I had to be in Richmond, Virginia the next day. We happened to be in Louisville for the weekend. But we go down to Nashville, Todd and I do, and Louisville took care of business. They jumped on Georgia Tech early and dominated that game, and it was an awesome experience. Todd and I had always, when in college, we always went to all the games together, and going to that game was awesome. But then what I remember is that I had to be in Richmond for work the next morning at 8 a.m. And so I had to drive through the night. So it was like paybacks. But I'm listening to talk radio. Everybody's talking about Louisville. I'm all fired up. That's only half of the story. So they win that game. Then the next round, they beat the number 1 seed. It was Washington Huskies. That was when they had little man Nate. What was his name? Nate
Robinson.
Yeah, and so now they're in the Elite Eight, and all they got to do, Louisville was the 4 seed. All they had to do was beat 7 seed West Virginia, and John Beilein was the coach, and Louisville's favored in this game. And so
Pittsnogle.
Yeah, well, we're getting to that one. So I drove back to Louisville. We wanted to come back in and watch the game with everybody. We went up to B-Dubs, watched the game. We had a huge crowd of people there. Gregonis was there. Derek Collins was there. I remember Patterson was there. And that game couldn't have gone worse, or couldn't have started worse. And as you said, Craig, we got Pittsnoggled.
Yeah, Pittsnoggled.
We got Pittsnoggled. Dude hit like 6 threes in the first game. I think West Virginia hit 12, 13 threes in the first half. Louisville's down 20 points. And we're thinking, man, we're going to lose to West Virginia. And then sure enough, man, Taquan Dean, Larry O'Bannon, Francisco Garcia, they go nuts and just start
Juan Palacios.
Palacios, as Uncle Vern calls him. And anyway, Louisville ends up coming back and tying it up. We go to overtime, and Louisville wins the game. And I've never been as excited as I was in BW3s for when Louisville came back and won that game. It was absolute pandemonium, and I had an absolute blast. And we've won 3 national titles, but I remember that game more than anything. It was awesome.
Pure pandemonium at B-Dubs.
At B-Dubs. Heck yeah.
Send old Pittsnoggle home with his tail between his legs.
Pittsnoggle. Otis George.
It was, yeah. And that team, I mean, West Virginia could not miss. And Pittsnoggle was not really a star. But, man, that game, he just kept hitting. And anyway, the Cards came back, and the right team advanced.
I feel like at this point we're just trying to see how to work Pittsnoggle into the conversation.
After my debacle on last weekend, understanding what Neil was saying with his fancy words at the front end, I can say Pittsnoggle. So I can't say
tangential.
Whatever. There you go. Hey, I had to write it down. I still can't say
tangential and hitching the fields.
Yeah,
it's just something about Neil. I think it's just Neil. I'll just Redmond and I'll interpret. We'll interpret.
Thank you. Well, we're at 2 different ends too. He's at the South Oldham. I'm at the South End. So it's there's a bit of a dialect change from one end of the town to the other.
We'll see if we can get some closed captioning here going forward for us.
That'd be great. I'd appreciate that.
Well, Cotton Bud, what about you out there in the South End?
Well, I kind of had some of the same notes from that ball game because I also recall that game, and so I had notes on it. But I'm going to give it to you from an outsider's view because I don't know if it's been brought up or not. But I'm from Texas, and I moved here in '87. So I move here, and everybody is, well, who do you like, U of L or UK? And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And
do they have teams?
And they're like, Louisville won the national championship last year because we moved here in '87. So they're like, they won last year. I'm like, oh yeah, what did they win? And they're like, the NCAA basketball. It was in Dallas. I'm like, I lived in the state, and I tell you, there was not a person that even knew the tournament was going on. Like, it's football and baseball, and so when I moved here, it was like, I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
You probably tried to change the conversation to Earl Campbell.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's everything. Yeah, Earl Campbell, and yeah, the Astros. But now I'm as equally bought in, and I love it. I'm made up with it. You know, I've got all the want to watch the tournament now that it's coming up. But when you move into, and one of the questions in our trivia night, what was the stat, Red? 20 year number one rating city in the nation or something, and it's been Louisville for basketball.
Was I there then?
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you were at the table with me.
I don't think I heard that.
That's why y'all finished in fifth. Because
that's what we got fifth. I think we got that one right. But but Louisville was like 20 years in a row, and so this area around here, is with Kentucky and Indiana and Louisville, and
it is. It's
other
the
associated
number one
basketball
market for college basketball.
Yeah, number one market. So yeah, so no, my kind of the similar. My best story, or my favorite story, as far as being physically involved, is the 2013 national championship. Down at 4th Street Live, Vez, Tammy, and I, others watching, and then we watch them beat Wichita State.
Shout out Tim Henderson.
Yeah, Wichita. He hits those 2 threes, and then me and Vez are like, we're leaving. This is 1 or 2 in the morning, and we're like, we're going. Like by the time we finish that night, and like we're going. So we basically run to the house, pack a bag, and start driving to Atlanta. And I'm able to get a hold of Sherm, and Sherm's able to broker deals for me because he's already down there, and was able to get me and Vez 2 tickets to the ball game. So got to whip in the day of the ball game, go to the national championship, have all the fun during the day, and then next morning, same thing. We did get to sleep. I didn't have to drive back immediately, but had to jump up the next morning and drive back. But yeah, got to watch the national championship, so that was incredible. A lot of fun. Watch Luke Hancock hit those 4 threes in the first half. And then what's our big power forward?
Montrez.
with the Montrez with the alley-oop from Peyton Siva. Holy moly. You can't write better drama. That was so much fun to watch.
That was awesome.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Redmond, how about you?
Well, man, I've got a good one and I've got a bad one.
Ooh.
But both of mine are much younger and much earlier than you guys. So I think what got me hooked initially, and this will give it away, so I'll go ahead and just throw it out there. The year was 1983. I was in 3rd grade. And, these games are on Monday night, right? They started like 9 o'clock. And I don't know if I sweet talked my mom into staying up late. I don't know how I hornswoggled her into it. But watching the game. I pitsnoggled her? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's illegal in 2 states, by the way. But so, the game's just amazing, right? You got NC State and you got Houston. And that's back in the day when Houston was acrobatic.
Fast
Slam, right? They had the nicknames. They had Clyde. They had Olajuwon. They had everything you needed to win a championship. And thought they were going to get it, right? The shot goes up, and I'm like, oh no, he missed. And there he is. Lorenzo Charles throws it in. Jimmy V's running around the court. The crowd's going nuts. I felt like I was running around the living room, right? Like it was just a tremendous memory. But what I thought was funny, and this is probably why I liked it back then, they were Phi Slama Jama, right? And I think they beat U of L in the game preceding that. So there's a lot of articles in the local paper here about Phi Slama Jama. But after NC State beat them, the headline was Phi Slama Jama isn't worth a damn. And I thought that was the funniest thing, right? As a 3rd grader. So I think that got me hooked way back when. And then, the one, I mean, here we are, it's 2025, and this still may be too soon to talk about it. But, March Madness, there's certain events in your life where you remember where you were, right? And, where were you when Bambi got shot or Bambi's mother got shot, right? JFK, things along those lines. And for me, one of those events was 1992.
Oh,
Kentucky Duke, right? And it's just, to this day, I still have nightmares about it. But, I remember where I was, who I was with. Sean Woods takes a shot and everybody's like, it's a terrible shot, and it goes in, and we're all hugging each other and we think we've got it in the bag. And obviously we all know how it ends. But what makes that great for me, as much as it pains me to know it, fast forward to, what was it, a year or two ago? When was Coach K's last season? Was that 2 years ago?
Rat face.
Oh, ferret face is what we call him here in the house. But so it's Duke Carolina's last game with Coach K at the helm, right? So we're watching. We've got the family over here, and Gunner's asking us who we're all pulling for, and immediately everybody's like North Carolina. He's like, "Why no Duke?" And I'm like, "Buddy, we'll talk about it. You're obviously before you were born." So a couple weeks later, I find the game online, and we're streaming it to the TV, and Gunner and I are rewatching the game. Maybe the first time I'm able to talk about it since 1992. But we're watching the game, and it's coming down to the end, and Gunner's like, "I think we're going to win." And I was like, "Me too, buddy. Me too."
Oh.
Like I was back there, takes you all the way back, and for a brief, fleeting moment, you think you got it again, and then fucking Leitner pulls the rug out from underneath us.
I remember where I was at watching that ball game. I was, I'm a little guy, but I watched every bit of that game. I remember being at my mom and dad's house in the living room watching that ball game and cheering for Kentucky too. So. Yeah, that's an incredible game. I know that one's not one you want to talk about.
Heartbreaker for
Redmond, there's one listener right now who's really excited about that story, and that's Kyle.
You know what's so funny about that? Like he's a huge everything Philly guy, and so and speaks not one lick of knowledge on basketball. But you want to talk the Phillies? Duke. You want to talk the Phillies or the Eagles? He's all in. But yeah, Duke. I may buy him a Duke shirt now. That's awesome.
That's good.
That's hilarious.
Well, let's bring it here to current day, and let's figure out. So we've got Selection Sunday. By the time this show is going to post, I think we'll have maybe less than a week before Selection Sunday is upon us. Who do you guys got for this year? Who are you gonna put in your polls? Who are you gonna put in your picks to pull it out this year? What do you got, Craig?
Sadly, I do like watching Cooper Flagg play at Duke.
That's
so
why
I'm not saying that's. I don't know that I'm not saying I'm picking them, but I do. He's one of those generational talents that I do like watching play. And now that Coach K is gone, I'm not as anti-Duke as I used to be. I couldn't even tell you who their head coach is, but I'll go quick, and that's going to be my pick for this year. Although, who knows?
Well, this has been a good run. In going forward, our podcast is going to be down to 3 members since Craig has thrown Duke out there. He's exiled.
I can't root with my heart. My heart would be Louisville, but I also have bet it previously in my life, and I don't bet with my heart. So I'd love to see them win, but they're not going to win the national championship. I'm just glad we make the tournament this year. So we can go a little run and get 1 or 2 wins. That'd be unbelievable.
Yes, Cards have
been hot this year, man. They've been fun to watch again. Wilding, what about you? Who you got? Who you picking?
I don't know. I think, obviously the SEC has dominated basketball this year, and it kind of makes sense because the SEC has more money than anybody else, and so they can hire better coaches and buy more players.
That's a bold statement. It's a bold statement.
I feel like, though, that the dominant SEC teams are not going to make the Final Four. I think somebody else will sneak in. They've got a bunch of good teams. The guy that works for me is a big Florida fan. I've been watching them a little bit more. Florida's good, and so I wouldn't be surprised to see the Gators sneak in there.
All right.
But I'm just happy, like Craig said, I'm just happy that the Cards are back in the conversation. I don't know that they're in for a long run, but I'm just happy to care about the tournament. And
Is there a better day of sports than the Thursday and Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but the Thursday, Friday of the tournament is the two greatest days of sports of all time.
It's the best
to
tournament.
have that many ball games going on, so much action. You're watching this game, you're like, look at that game. They're, hitting the last second shot, and it's all day long. It starts at noon, and they perfectly stage it every 30 minutes
until like 1 in the morning. It's the best.
Yeah,
they got it down to a science.
Doesn't get any better.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing ever.
Sherm, who you got, bud?
Well, my team is trying to play in Xavier, so we're trying to get there. We've got one game left in the season, and then get into the Big East tournament. We have to win, I think, this week and next week, at least one game in the tournament to get in the conference tournament, to get into the tournament. If we do that, I think we're in. I'd love to see, just a little run from them. They're not I don't think they're a Final Four team by any stretch, since they're trying to just get in the tournament. But if we could pick somebody off, it'd be great. But if I had to pick, I'm going with Alabama. They're a top 10 team. I've been watching them. I've got a couple buddies who are Alabama fans that turned me on to them for a while, and just been that's who I'm watching.
Roll Tide.
Back to the SEC, strong.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So, Craig, you talked about, going with your heart. I'm a UK fan for sure. And I think if we were healthy, we'd be able to make a strong run, but I think that's going to get the better of us. I'm going to have to go with Auburn, which kind of pains me, right? The whole War Damn Eagle thing. When you look at these guys, they are, their average age is like 24 or something. They've got a guy that's 25. It's incredible. They're men among boys and trying to pull things together. So it pains me to say, but I think Auburn's going to pull it out.
Red, that is painful because I think Bruce Pearl is like a snake oil salesman. He's a tough guy to root for, but they are really good.
He and Cal probably get together and figure out how to do some things on the side, but that's neither here nor there. We'll see what happens. It's going to be exciting for sure. So I tell you what, we got a few minutes left here. Let's try to wrap this up and bring some music into the fray. And since we're talking about college basketball, let's talk about some groups and some songs from when we were all in college. But before we get to that, what if you had to pick a genre? How would you classify? How would you classify your boys, Neil?
My boys? What do you mean?
Third Eye Blind?
Oh, how would I classify them?
Yeah,
I would go 90s alternative.
Okay, fair enough. So let's go hip hop for this week's music lesson. All right. So let's see. We get let's do 3 pick'ems. We'll run through them. Give us your group, your song, and maybe a little quip about them. Sherm, let's go to you first, man.
My 3. I'm going to go, and I just realized as I'm going through here, they all have a tie back to one artist. But Tupac and Dr. Dre, California Love. To me, that is a song that just it gets the people moving. It gets everybody rolling. It's a good, it's not even Tupac's. I'm a big Tupac fan. It's not even my favorite Tupac song. It's not even my favorite Tupac song off of that album. But anyway, Redman, Time for Some Action. It's got the Cypress Hill sample in it. And then Eric B. and Rakim, Know the Ledge from the Juice soundtrack.
Yeah.
So,
man, I like Bishop. Gotta love some Juice. Wildy, what about you, bud?
Cool.
Hey, how about can you mind if I just step in for a quick second, just because the recording session and our time is fast approaching. So what I'd like to do is in the first ever episode or first ever time in Southern Hang, we're going to have a teaser. We're teasing the end of this episode, and we're going to bring this back the next time.
To be continued.
To be continued in the next episode, because we are going to be shut down due to recording time constraints. So we need to shut it down. But I'm thinking to bring it back together. Next episode may be like garbage can plate episode where we'll just throw out a bunch of stuff. We'll go around the whole room. We'll talk about 90s hip hop. We'll talk about all kinds of things. We may circle back around on all episodes and what was our highest points. But unfortunately for this one, we are fast running out of time. So we got to
fair enough.
Stage it for next time.
We'll table it for part 2. So
close us out. Close us out, Red.
You got it, my man. Well, again, thank you all for listening. The support has been overwhelming. Hit us up on social media. We've got a email as well. Sure, what's our email?
southernhang@gmail.com.
That's right.
southernhang@gmail.com. And for those that are in the know, the text and phone calls, hey, you guys are putting this out on a weekly basis. Can you do it bi-weekly? We've even had daily requests. I think I even got one person reached out. Can we do our first road show here next month at their kid's birthday party? So it's truly overwhelming. It's truly humbling. Hope you guys had a great time, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, Kyle.
Pitt Snoggle. Peace out.